making me look holy over here. There's a lot going on right now all over the world that really just breaks and tears your heart. And we have to keep these things in mind, and we have to keep talking about them, which is important. But it's also important to focus on the good news that's happening as well on the ground so that we can at least have some bright spots in our life. Okay? So, I'm going to share this video really quick, and then we can get into the details. And this story, shout out to Roger Meadows, because I'm going to be honest with you. Because he shared this story with me, this piqued my interest. I was like, okay, I'm talking about it because this is a good news. So let me share this video, and then we can get into deeper details right after. So shout out to my homie.
Uber and Lyft have agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for shortchanging drivers. Plus, Starbucks is reporting record sales as customers buy pricier specialty drinks. ABC News business reporter Alexis Christophorus has more on that and your other business headlines. Alexis, what are you watching today?
Watching Uber and Lyft because this is a major settlement for rideshare drivers. In fact, the New York Attorney General is calling it the largest wage theft settlement for her office. Uber and Lyft agreeing to pay a combined $328 million for withholding money from drivers, $290 million from Uber, $38 million from Lyft. The state saying the companies wrongly deducted certain taxes and fees from drivers' payments between 2013 and 2017. Eligible drivers can now file a claim to receive back pay and mandatory sick leave. Uber and Lyft say they've been advocating for pay protections for drivers for years. Lyft adding it never violated any laws. More customers stopped by Starbucks last quarter.
$328 million. Yes, people, $328 million out of the hands of these big, greedy corporations. Yes, please. Let's talk about it. All right. Okay, so this is good news because, look, people are suffering, especially workers in this country. Not only are we seeing people abroad being massacred and genocided, but we're also suffering in this country from the greed of the corporations. But at least we got a win. Let's go. So this says Uber and Lyft to agree to pay $328 million to drivers in New York wage settlement. So says the ride-sharing companies Uber and Lyft have agreed to pay $328 million to settle an investigation into withholding pay for more than 100,000 of its drivers, according to State Attorney General Letitia James. James said that settlement announced Thursday stems from her multi-year investigation into claims that the companies withhold pay from drivers and prevent them from receiving benefits under state labor laws. The settlement will provide back pay to drivers and create a earnings floor, minimum pay scale, paid sick leave, reporting of hiring and earning notices, and other changes to working conditions, James said. So, she said, for years, Uber and Lyft systematically cheated their drivers out of hundreds of millions of dollars in pay and benefits while they were working long hours in challenging conditions, especially during the pandemic. You got to remember, because then they had to change a lot of the policies during the pandemic as well. And so because of that, it was a lot rougher for them. And so we have to keep that in mind too. So let's continue. Says these drivers overwhelmingly come from immigrant communities and rely on these jobs to provide for their families. These settlements will ensure they finally get what they have rightfully earned and are owed under law. So it says under the settlement, Uber will pay $290 million and Lyft will pay $38 million. Says James, the Attorney General James said her office investigation found that from 2014 to 2017, Uber deducted sales taxes and other fees from payments made to drivers when those costs should have been paid by passengers. That practice reduced the cost to customers. Further, James said that the company misrepresented the fees to drivers in their pay statements. Lyft also reduced drivers' compensation from 2015 to 2017 through an administrative charge. Both companies failed to provide sick leave as required by state law. Drivers who are eligible for payments under the settlement will receive notices by mail, email, or text message. So that is great news. Now, there are details as to what these settlements actually entail. Just to let you guys know, I did the math. It said over 100,000 drivers, and it was $328 million. So you divide it, it comes out to about over $3,200 per driver. Now, some may get a little bit less, some may get a little bit more, depending on the circumstance and how they were treated within those years. But they can get a little chunk of change, $3,280. So that definitely helps, especially if they're, skimming all the money off the top, each time you drive a patron to where they need to go. So we're going to take a look at some of the details regarding these judgments. So we're starting off with Lyft. And thanks again to Roger for this. It says New York State Attorney General has secured fair labor practices for New York State Lyft drivers, including back payments from 2015 to 2017. It says, did you drive Lyft in New York State between October 11, 2015 and July 31st, 2017? Lyft may owe you money if you had deductions taken from New York sales tax and black car fund fees. Please see our free. Okay. Do you currently drive for Lyft in New York State? You will begin to receive new job benefits. Following its investigation, the Office of New York State Attorney General negotiated a settlement with Lyft that does the following. It creates a $38 million settlement fund. You may be eligible for payments if you drove for Lyft between October 11, 2015 and July 31st, 2017, and had deductions taken from New York sales tax and black car fund fees. The claims will be handled by Russ Consulting Incorporated. It provides you with new benefits for sick leave, payments, training, and job support if you currently drive for Lyft. These benefits are expected to begin no later than February 29, 2024. Remember, next year is a leap year. So there's 29 days in February. You will be able to access these benefits through the Lyft driver app. So the basics of the settlement goes through those. New benefits to current Lyft drivers. Sick leave if you drive for Lyft in New York State. You will receive guaranteed paid sick leave as follows. For each 30 hours you work, you earn 1 hour of sick pay. Your hours begin when the dispatcher notifies you of a ride and end when you complete the ride. You can earn up to 56 hours of sick time per year. This sick leave benefit begins no later than February of 2024. Your sick leave pay depends on whether you drive inside or outside the New York City metropolitan area. If your trip is covered by minimum driver pay rules of New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission, you will receive $17 per hour. This hourly rate increases to $17.25 on March 1st of 2024 and $17.51 on June 1st of 2024. This rate will increase annually for inflation starting March 1st, 2025. Now, I honestly think that it should be like significantly more than that, especially given that it's New York. But I know beggars can't be choosers, but at the same time, I'm just like 17.25. It should be more than that. $17 an hour should be like almost double that by now. But whatevs. If your trip is not covered by the TLC rules, you will receive $26 per hour. This hourly rate increases to $26.39 on March 1st, 2024, and $26.78 on June 1st, 2024. This rate will increase annually for inflation starting on March 1st, 2025. Minimum payments for non-New York City drivers. For drivers outside of New York City that are not subject to TLC rules, you will be paid a minimum hourly rate. Your hours began with the dispatcher notifies you will ride. This hourly rate began on February 29th of next year at $26 an hour. Rate increased to $26.39 on March 1st of next year and $26.78 on June 1st of next year. And then, of course, adjusting for inflation in March of 2025. For each hour required training you will complete, you will receive higher of the following: $15 per hour, the lowest minimum wage. So I'll just do this last one. It says Lyft will provide the following information and documents: new hiring notice that explains the earnings, statements that show how much you earned during pay period, and a notification how much a rider has paid for each ride. So this is awesome. So I'm going to share this in the chat, and then I'm going to go to the Uber one next. Because and by the way, if you guys can, try to tip well if you guys use Uber or Lyft in New York, because those drivers don't make a whole lot. Now, let me share the screen. Where you at? There you go. All right. So this is the Uber settlement. So following the investigation of New York State Attorney General, says it creates $290 million settlement fund. So if you drove for Uber between November 10th of 2014 and May 22 of 2017, May 22nd of 2017, you had deductions taken for New York sales tax and black card fund fees. So it provides you with new sick leave, payment, training, and job support. If you currently drive for Uber, these benefits are expected to begin no later than February 29th of next year. Right? So it's going to be very similar to it's going to be very similar to Lyft. It says for each 30 hours you work, you earn 1 hour of sick pay. So the maximum amount is 56 hours of sick time per year. And then it will begin on February 20, no later than February 29th of next year. And so it's pretty much the same as far as the if you're within New York City and you're part of the Taxi and Limousine Commission, so you'll receive $17 an hour, then increase to $17.25, and then $17.51, and then it'll adjust for inflation in March of 2025. And then if you're not covered by TLC or the Taxi and Limousine Commission in New York, you'll receive $26 an hour, and then it will increase to $26.39. And then on March, $26.78 in June, and then it will adjust for inflation in March of 2025. And then it's basically the same for the non-New York City drivers as with Lyft. Same thing with training, $15 an hour, or start at the lowest minimum wage. And then Uber will also provide the same things, notice about earnings, statements about how much you earn for each pay period, and notification how much a rider has paid. So pretty much for the same thing. Let's see. By November 2024, Uber will provide chat support for drivers on its app in English, Spanish, French, Russian, Bengali, and Chinese. So that is the details, so that Uber drivers actually get better, more fair treatment in New York. And I hope something like this spreads throughout the rest of the country. Would Uber be more expensive? Would Lyft be more expensive? Yes. Yeah, it would be. Would that be a disadvantage to people like myself? Yes, it would. But at the same time, this is why we need to expand with mass public transportation. Because if we can do this, then we can expand mass public transportation. We can invest in things like high-speed rail. We can invest in trains, light rail, buses that are more efficient, that cut down on rideshare. And so that's how I feel. We really need to invest more in just having a less individualistic type of mode of transportation and having more of a mass transit. But nevertheless, whenever the workers win, that is a win. Celebrate that win as well with your fellow workers. And look, I want to see them thrive, because there's too many of them that are suffering right now. When you see a worker win, be happy for that worker, because indirectly we're all going to win somehow.